Hello, I'm Nelson Paule, and I'll be discussing the pitfalls to avoid in layouting. This topic is indicated in the DevC 206, Design and Production of Print and Radio DevCo Materials of the University of the Philippines, Open University. This is a continuation of Module 5, Layout and Packaging of Print Materials. Before I start with my presentation, please ensure that you learn the importance of layout and packaging, principle of layout design, formatting the page, styling the words and phrases, and how to handle pictures. Let's start with why is a pitfall called a pitfall? According to Merriam-Webster, a pitfall is usually a hidden or not easily recognized danger or difficulty. In the context of layout, it is the design choices that often negatively impacts the visual, rather than helping the reader to easily digest or understand the content. That is why it is highly critical that we do not fall to these error designs. According to our textbook, these generally occur in newspaper layouts, but it could also occur in other publications. And to help you understand how visually unappealing these pitfalls are, let me provide you with visuals as we go through my presentation. Please do not mind the text. The lorem ipsum text is generated by Adobe. This is to simulate sentences and paragraphs. With that out of the way, let's start with grayness of page. Grayness of page happens when we don't separate or shorten the paragraphs, making the page feel dense and crowded. In the perspective of the reader, this may be an appealing layout due to text blocks, like this. We can avoid this by utilizing the white spaces of your page and by emphasizing key points and sentences with font styles. A bullet should also be useful for extra long lists. Tombstoning is when similarly styled headlines are side by side with one another. In the reader's perspective, this may look like the second story is a continuation of the first one. We can avoid this by using other typeface or containing the other story within a box or add a photo between the headlines. Third, armpitting occurs when a smaller headline is placed underneath a much bigger headline. In the reader's perspective, the smaller headline story may seem to be a part of the bigger story. We can avoid this by having at least 8 lines of text above the second story. Dutch wrap happens when a part of the story is separated from the headline. In the reader's perspective, this makes it hard for the reader to find the connection. We can avoid this by putting the story and the headline in the same page, making them a complete unit. As such, while unlabeled or missing jumps is when there is no clue or reference where the continuation of the story would be. In the reader's perspective, this would make it harder for them to continue or finish the story. We can avoid this by thoroughly reviewing the material and by adding correct references and labels to stories that would need continuation. Backward jumps happens when the next part of the story is on the previous page. In the reader's perspective, this could be very frustrating to have to go back just to read the continuation. As shown on my example, you can see the right side of the page contains the main story, then its continuity was on the left side of the page, meaning it was on the previous page. We can avoid this by properly placing the continuation in the jump pages. I'll explain what the jump page is at the next topic. And moving forward, dominant positions of a jump page materials on a jump page. And before we proceed, according to Merriam-Webster, a jump page is a page on which the continuation of an article appears. In the reader's perspective, this could help them easily find the continuity of the story by visiting a specific or a dedicated jump page. The only downside to this is that jump page usually have other articles and continuing stories. As you can see in my example right on the right side of the screen. We can avoid the confusion by putting the continued parts of the story in a much less prominent positions on a jump page, while putting the main headline or other articles at the dominant part of the page. Okay, in summary, grayness of page happens when the paragraphs are too long. Tombstoning is when similarly styled headlines are side by side with one another. Armpitting occurs when a smaller headline is placed underneath a much bigger headline. Dutch wrap happens when a part of the story is separated from the headline. Unlabeled or missing jumps is when there is no indication to where the continuing story would be. Backward jumps, this happens when the next part of the story is on the previous page. While lastly, jumps should be placed in a much less prominent position on the jump page. Okay, to conclude, I'll be putting my discussion questions in the forum below. So to conclude, let me end my presentation with two discussion questions. In your opinion, should all the content of a story or article be condensed in the same page to avoid jumping? Or is it necessary to do jumps to avoid overcrowding in a page? Choose one and explain why. And second, why is it important for jumps to be placed in less prominent positions on a page? This concludes my presentation on pitfalls to avoid in layouting. Hope you had learned something. Thank you and stay safe.